I kept about 20 head of heifers up on 500 acres of real thick woods, and I fed them on a pipeline right away. And in the winter, and if one got thin, I'd go up there and take the trailer and rope her and take her back to the house and give her some soft feed. Well, I saw a thin heifer there, and I went and got my spotted horse and went back and roped her, and she had little nubby horns. As I roped her, the rope came off one of her horns and fell on the ground just as I got off my horse. I stepped in that rope, and it scared that old horse. He was kind of bronky and real spooky and scary, but lazy too. He ran out the end of that rope and stretched my leg out like that, and I said, "Whoa, Spot, I think that's the scariest I've ever been." I said, "Whoa." I was looking at 500 acres of woods, and that horse had me all stretched out there, and finally he was just too lazy to drag me to death, I guess. And so I got up to him, got my rope loose, and so I wrote a poem about him. Old Spot. You know that spotted horse of mine? He'll never spin upon a dime or watch a cow or work a rope. He's got a rough, ungangly lope. He's lazy as a wooden chair. The slightest thing will make him scared. To top it off, he's bronky too, and he's as old as me and you. But that ain't why he gets the best. I treat him better than the rest. His work is light, his life is sweet. All he has to do is eat. Yep, all he does is eat and sleep. I'll tell you how he earned his keep. Me and Spot one winter day, while riding the fence, we seen a stray. He was on the railroad track. I figured I'd best get him back. I pushed the barbed wire to the ground, and with a limb I held it down. It made a gap for us to ride and get us to the other side. That bramer stood there on a tie. He was 2 feet between his eyes. He was big and gray and mean. His horns was long and black and keen. I tied my rope off hard and fast. A hatchet knot was tied to last. If my horse went down that day, then I could run and get away. If Spot got jerked up on his side, then I could run and save my hide. To catch me, he would have to drag my saddle and that spotted nag. Well, things was looking pretty bad. That bull was getting pretty mad. I looked at him and changed my mind. I could come back another time. He bellered and he pawed the ground, and then he charged and knocked us down. When I got up and looked about, I gave a squawk and then a shout. A train was coming flying low, and there was no place I could go. The bull was here, the train was there. I needed change of underwear. Then Spotty woke up from his snooze. He saw there was no time to lose. He bolted from the railroad track, a-dragging me up on my back. That lazy horse was at a lope. My leg was tangled in the rope. All I could do was cry and beg as Spotty ran and stretched my leg. I crossed my legs and hollered, "Please, horse, don't drag me through them trees." Well, I figured I was surely dead, and then he stopped and dropped his head. The ruckus there, his strength did sap. It was time for his mid-morning nap. I breathed a sigh, my skin I'd keep. That lazy horse had gone to sleep. Well, he may have trifling henhouse ways, and sure he's seen his better days, but with me, he's earned a rest. From now on, he'll get the best. His spirit saved me from the train and from the bull and from the pain. His laziness, it saved me too from knocking down a tree or two. You see now why my lazy friend will never have to work again. See how his laziness and fear saved the day and saved my rear. Back when I was rodeoing, riding bucking horses, bareback horses and saddle broncs, Bobby Steiner called me and he said, "Bob, it's Cowboy Christmas, the 4th of July. There's so many rodeos going on that there's just not enough cowboys to go around. If you'll come to Belton and work the rodeo here at Belton, I'll pay you entry fees." So I went to Belton, and sure enough, I drew the bucking horse of the year into bareback riding, and I wasn't much of a bareback rider. And that horse bailed out of that chute, and I never even got to see him come down. I fell on the back of my neck, and the gate man said, "Get up, boy, and let us shut the gate." So I got up and grinned and went behind the chutes and like to cry. So I wrote a poem about it. It was Cowboy Christmas, the 4th of July, when Bobby, he called me and he said with a sigh, "We're short of bronc riders at Belton again. If you will just enter, I know that you'll win. And also the bareback, we need quite a few. There's not many entered, I think maybe 2. Your fees I will pay and a steak I will buy if you'll just work Belton the 4th of July. Well, Belton it is then, I said with a grin, if you'll throw in a room at the Holiday Inn. He said, that's too steep, but I'm sure in a fix I'll get you a room down at old Motel 6. Well, I told him I'd be there and sure be a breeze to not have to work stock to pay up my fees. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Now I'd be at Belton the 4th of July. Well, I pulled down my hat and I hit for the door, grabbing my saddle and bag from the floor. 300 miles wasn't much of a drive. If I held it to 90, I could make it by 5. Well, I jumped in my Heat. The battery was numb. It was out on the highway riding my thumb. If I could just flag down some cars passing by, then I could make Belton the 4th of July. Well, I limped into town, got a room with a view, then down to the arena to see what I drew. There on a pin fence, hung on a nail, was the draw of the day. My skin had turned pale, my eyes was a bulging, my blood pressure dropped. At the sight of that number, my heart nearly stopped. Oh no, I'm doomed, I'm on the low cry. I should have worked Pecos the 4th of July. Old Whittamaker was number 13, as bad as a grizzly and as big and as mean. He run and shoot and he kicked and he roared, and the top of his back was above the top board. The bronc in the chute that filled me with fear was voted by Cowboys the bronc of the year. And I had to ride him. At least I would try right there at Belton the 4th of July. Well, I let out my rigging as far as it would, and I cinched it down on him the best that I could, and I took a deep seat up on his broad back, and I called for the gate with my feet in the cracks. I marked him out good way up in the neck, and that's when I'll tell you, all things went to heck. We was a-heading for up in the sky, right there in Belton, the 4th of July. When he leaped from the chute, he left like a jet. He tore out my handhold, but he wasn't through yet. He jumped in the air and he kicked out behind. I landed head first, and I thought I'd gone blind. I lay there in darkness and pondered my fate, and I heard someone holler, "We can't shut the gate." Crumpled and blinded in the gate I did lie, at dusty old Belton, the 4th of July. If some of you boys will give me a hand, we'll pull this poor cowboy's head from the sand. Well, they pulled at my arms and they tugged at my shirt, and I could see light as my head left the dirt. Well, I sold off my rigging, I sold out my tack, and I cut a trail, and I never looked back. Now I may go blind as time passes by, but it won't be at Belton the 4th of July. Now I want to tell you a poem. This is my mother's favorite. When I was exercising racehorses for my friend J.T. Craner, a racehorse trainer, I broke and trained a racehorse, and this horse became the world champion running horse in 1982, Johnny Vitoro. And he was a big 16-hand, 1,200-pound 2-year-old, and I took him out of the gates the first time. It was like this. I was out of breath in 14 seconds. So I guess that makes me kind of an expert on how to make a horse run. This is a poem about motivation. Let me shake your hand, my friend. You and Dobbin win again. Every time you ride that horse, you win the race and beat the course. He looks more like a plow horse, son, and no one else can make him run. Please tell me, boy, what is your trick? You never even use a stick. But for you, he beats a pack and brings the winner's trophy back. Crooked legs and pigeon toes, a swayback nag with Roman nose. He looks more suited to the cart of pulling people through the park. Please tell me now, I've got to know, how do you make that crowbait go? All the money I have lost, I've got to know at any cost, how you make that flea bag fly and pass the other horses by. Then that jockey says to me, I'll tell you, sir, but for a fee, how I make him want to run just like a shot out of a gun. Well, it cost me more than I can say, but to know I had to pay. Sir, just bend down and you'll hear the words I whisper in his ear. All I ever have to say is, horse, you better run today, 'cause horsey meat is doggy treat. If you don't run, then you'll be eat. If you don't run, my hairy friend, then you will wear a coat of tin. If you don't run, my dapple Dan, then you'll be sitting in a can. When, one Sunday afternoon, my wife and I were sitting around the house, and she wanted a clean house. I wanted to take a nap and read the paper. So after I got through washing dishes and doing the chores and picking up the yard, I wrote this poem. I know that us cowboys are supposed to be tough and never do housework and dishes and stuff. We're supposed to ride horses and drive them big rigs. But if I don't help her, she calls me a pig. If I don't do dishes, the laundry, the floors, if I don't clean toilets and help with the chores, then she just might leave me. Then where would I be? With no one to cook for or clean for but me? More likely the doghouse is where I'd abide, a-scratching the fleas as they crawl up my hide, and fighting old Rover for scraps and a bone, with only that dog between me and alone. So boys, you can rib me and treat me unkind, hoorah me and mock me, I really don't mind, 'cause helping her out is the least I can do, after all that she does here for me and my crew. Me and the kids here, we know where we stand, with kisses and kindness and love that is grand. She works hard all week and she cooks and she cleans, and still through it all, son, she looks like a queen. So boys, you can laugh, you can call me some names, but here with my sweetheart is where I'll remain, a-working together through love and through life, and thank God in heaven for making my wife. Fourth generation Southeast Texas cowboy. My great-grandpa was a cowboy, and my grandpa was a cowboy, and my daddy was, and he had a rodeo string, and so I guess I didn't have any choice. I had to be a cowboy. So I want to tell you about what it takes to be a cowboy. I wrote this for my dad, and he passed away back in May, and I was lucky enough to get to tell him this many times before it was too late. I wrote this, and I told he and Mother that the day I wrote it, and we all cried. What it takes to be a cowboy ain't a pair of faded jeans, or dusty hat or western boots all busted at the seams. It ain't his looks or what he wears, it's in his heart and mind. His manners, they are gracious, and his ways are mostly kind. His smile is quick, his voice is soft, he's got a gentle way. With children and with animals, he meets along life's way. He tips his hat or gives a nod to ladies that he meets. An outstretched hand he offers to each gentleman he greets. He's firm in his convictions, he's quick to lend a hand. With justice and with righteousness, he always takes a stand. To those about in need of help, his hand is never slow. He never boasts, he never brags, he never makes a show. To think of life without him would make me very sad. The reason is because, you see, this cowboy is my dad.